let's just pray silently for wisdom and open hearts. Thank you. I asked Father Kelly to, thank you for electing me your senior warden. I feel called to do this. And I want to talk a little bit about my own journey. It's going to be hard for me. Get worked up already. And then I want to talk about business. I was baptized here in May of 1956 and did all the things here. Mrs. Jackson played the organ here, and when I got to in my 4th year of piano lessons, I was able to play the organ up here and assisted the church group that we had a Sunday school that would meet in the chapel. And went away to college and came back and started rooming with a fraternity brother down in Grosse Pointe, Chris Lucander. He went to Christ Church in Grosse Pointe. He's a real good guy, and we'd go out drinking Saturday night and everything, and he'd go off to church. And I thought, oh yeah, he's going off to church. Maybe I ought to go down to St. John's. I used to go to St. John's, but I ought to do that. And that was a great place. And so I started, coming back to church and going to St. John's. And Sarah Babcock's father was the rector at the time. And so the ushers weren't nearly as well organized and as hospitable as our ushers are now. But Father Frisbee, Father Tom, we called him, welcomed me back and said, we don't have a bell ringer here at St. John's. We really need a bell ringer. If you could show up, we used to have the service at 11 o'clock back then. He said, if you could show up at like 10:50, make sure that you don't ring the bell while Hugh Lewis is playing the prelude. That would be a really good thing when we could use a bell ringer. So I'd come back here every Sunday because I didn't know much about the church, but I knew I had a job. I had to ring that bell. So I'd come back and ring the bell. And I started getting, connected with the whole thing and started learning about prayer. Father Tom was helping me and spent time with me and took me out to lunch after church. And it was a really neat thing we used to do. And I had the goal of trying to go to the Olympics in 1980. And I worked really hard. I didn't make it. Well, I didn't make it because of the boycotts at that school. But I really, I was second in Olympic trials, and I worked really hard on this. And I just couldn't get what I wanted. I worked really, really hard on this. So we were off to the World Championship in 1986. And I am prepared for this, so bear with me. In sailing, sorry. I thought we all did that.
Not everybody knows.
That can keep me honest tonight. And so, my brother and I traveled all over the world. We were in Spain in 1980 when Jimmy Carter announces the boycott. We'd spent all this money and all this time, took a 6-month leave of absence, and there it is on the front page of the International Herald Tribune. No Olympics, so I had 6 months off from work. Am I going to go home? No, I'm going to keep sailing. So we never made it. And then in 1984, we went for it again, and the guys that beat us in the Olympic trials went on to win the gold medal. And I worked harder than anybody. I worked harder than anybody, had the best boat. My brother and I were sailing on the best crew, and it just never came together. So we switched classes, got back to work, got back at St. John's. I started coming back to St. John's around 1985, 84, 85. Came back, started sailing the yachts. And we won the first regatta we sailed in this new class, the yachts. And then we won the second regatta. And then we go to the World Championship. And it was in Toronto, Royal Canadian Yacht Club. And a former world champion, America's Cup winner, and Olympic medalist came over to me in the parking lot before the regatta started. He said, who do you think is going to win this regatta? And I said, I think you guys will. He said, no, I think you will. And I thought, God, this guy thinks I'm going to win. So for the first time in my life, I'm in fact, I'm great. Had learned that it was meant to be when it happened. We won the first race by a minute and a half. It's big. Way up the race course. Finished second in the third race, or third in the second race. Called home. You know my mom, she runs the altar guild. Called home and said, Mom, I finished third in the second race. She said, what happened? I won the first race. That's when the way my mom thinks, right? went on and won the regatta, didn't have to sail the last race. And that's when I found the Holy Spirit. When we went that past, in the last race, we went that regatta, I felt the peace. It's unbelievable. If you've never felt it, if you never felt that, I hope you can feel it. So, so hard. And it wasn't because of the department here. It wasn't because of our choir. It wasn't because of our building. It's because of our town. Showed me the way. It's so hard. You're back. When he died, your mom asked me to be a pole bearer. That was really cool. I'll never forget that. When you brought your dad in, Robert Tom put his hand on the casket. It was really cool, Sarah. It was really cool. And I'll tell you what, I've had some great things happen in my life since that day. I'll never forget it. Well, next regatta, our next world championship, against the best sailor in the class has ever seen. In his home club, Marblehead, Massachusetts. Everybody said we won the first regatta because he wasn't there. So we went to his club and beat him. And I got on my knees every day that regatta, because you know one thing about me, I'm pretty simple. Once I find something that works, I can keep doing it. So, you know, that's what success is all about. Find the formula and start beating it in, and start beating it in. I started my company, my first company, in 1988. It was called Birtech. Didn't have a name for it. My last name was Burton. My father said, we got to call it something, so let's call it Birtech, because I'm not very original. So we started, I was growing the company, moved up to Chesterfield, Michigan, spent all the money I had to move up there. And I was doing business with General Motors in London, Ontario, the defense division of a defense contractor. And I spent all my cash to get the building up there in Chesterfield going. And they terminated the contract because they were being bought by General Dynamics. And they refused to pay me the rest of the contract, refused to pay me for the work that I had done. And they said to me, we're General Motors, sue us. That's a big problem. I've got 50 employees and they're 250 billion. I can't afford a lawyer. Basically, it's a real problem. So the bank came in and put me in what's called the workout group. That means, we love you, but we don't really love you. We want you to leave. We want you to pay. We want you to pay us to leave. Yeah, that's a polite way of saying it. You're bankrupt. We don't like you. We want you to leave. We have a little bit of that going on here right now at St. John's when the bank says, you can't draw any more out of your endowment fund because we don't like the ratios of your debts. Okay? It's a polite way to say it, but it lost faith. So I was in a real fix, and I brought a guy in to help me who was an expert. And you know what? He just wasn't doing the job. And he's got all the credentials and all the experience, and it just wasn't working out. And I had to go to the well again and get down on my knees and say, I can't figure this thing out, but you know what? I think I'm a pretty smart guy, and I can figure this out. And I came up with a new way of looking at my business and the productivity and what I needed to do to be successful. I couldn't get any more money. I didn't have any more money. The bank wouldn't give me any more money, and I had to figure this thing out. Well, what did I have? I had some other good customers at Lockheed Martin. I got a $4 million contract from Lockheed Martin. I thought that was going to save me. There's only one problem. They had a problem with their design. And right when they started the contract, they put a stop work order on me, so I couldn't get to the money that in that $4 million contract. I thought, here I was going to be saved. I have this $4 million contract, and I'm right back in the tube again. I have my accountant that has 40 years of experience, and he says, we're done. And I tell you, I've never prayed so hard at this parish for, wisdom. And I'll tell you another story. We'll do this again if you come back, about Don, how we say here. So I got through it. And the way I got through it is I went to my customers, and it was really hard to do. It wasn't so